Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major updates today, especially regarding the rest of the CDL season. Major 4 that was meant to be in New York apparently is not going to be the case any longer. Many different cities and also pros have given their thoughts on where it should be instead, but why was it got rid of from New York, especially because they just won the event a couple of days ago. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. As you guys can probably tell, not in the usual setup today, going home for Christmas will be a few different places over the next few days. But I'm somewhere on the laptop, but you know, it's all good. And the lighting is surprisingly good in here this morning. First of all, a few quick updates from around the league. This from Beans from the Boston side, discussing Hydro and not happy with the state of it. The map set as it stands is a bit of a controversial one. Later on today, I'll just discuss a little bit more what's going on with this whole hotel situation, just because we thought it was going to get removed from the game. Hydro will probably be a mainstay of the meta for some time to come, but yeah, Beans is not particularly happy with the way that's been going. Also, this news, right? So we know that Parasite knocked out his team that he was coaching this past weekend in the Challenger side. He's actually made his thoughts clear on the reverse sweep last night that he intends to maybe come back to competing. I don't know how many times in his career Parasite's retired and made a return. It's a fair few. This might be another one because he wasn't getting paid for that coaching gig anyway. And he was doing well on the server. She's like, you know what? Let me bring it back again. So yeah, Hamza Frosty reckons last night that indeed Parasite might officially be back in business competing for the upcoming season, which is pretty exciting stuff for sure. And also to note on this front, just because yesterday we discussed the Vaznev and what's going on there with the M4, Scar, GAs, all this drama. Now, you know, Methods was mentioning on the flank or kind of one of the shows that he was at least thinking about that possibility. I don't know that people have been coming back against this, and we saw a lot of comments on yesterday's video about what Dashy had to say on the Scar and the Vaznev meta, the Vaznev being too strong effectively was the implication. But, you know, I don't really see too much validity to it. You look at the top 4 teams for weekends. Priester, Skies, they were frying with the Scar, no problem. Seattle Surge, you know, accuracy does his thing, but Sib was absolutely frying with it. You then look at the third place team, Cellium and Slasher were frying most of the weekends. Slasher had some great series outside of the final one against the New York Subliners, and then Scrappy had no issues at all, neither did Insight with the Scar. So, I don't know, it seems to me a little bit like the teams that are towards the bottom of the standings are pushing for the meta change, just because, you know, they were rather good with the M4 meta at the start of the game, and in fairness, the 3 teams that used the most M4s in the first few weeks were Boston, London, and OpTic. All 3 teams are terrible placings in the major, so there might be some correlation there. There might be some other factors, of course, involved, but nonetheless, I thought interesting to mention for you guys. Now, these were the numbers from this weekend if you guys are interested. I think it's actually really interesting to look at this compared to last season. So the major this year peaked at 160-ish thousand viewers. Pretty good numbers. I mean, look, I think the opening weekend got to 190,000, but largely that was because opening weekend plus OpTic buff. Now, if OpTic had been in the finals of this event and playing very well, we'd have got well over 200k, no problem at all. But still, I think the average numbers to me are way more impressive. Like, we had 112,000 viewers average this weekend, which is far above and beyond what we had last year on average. And if you look at the series this season that did well, okay, the top series in terms of numbers were OpTic, but only barely. And yes, that was day 1, day 2, so Thursday, Friday, less viewership there than the weekends. But still, FaZe versus New York, all those New York events, or all those New York matches, got to like 140, 150k. The top team by hours watched was actually the Subliners as well. So just some great series, getting some good viewership, and hopefully this really does send a message that this is the way to be doing it, the watch parties and everything. The fact that we averaged 112,000 viewers is just so cool to see, and long may it continue going into the upcoming events. But one of those events will apparently not be at Major 4 in New York. So, of course, last year they hosted a phenomenal event at the King's Arena, I think it is, the King's Theatre maybe, in New York, and I was actually planning to go this year because it's quite convenient, East Coast event. I can fly straight from Manchester to New York, all that good stuff. So it probably won't be happening anymore. With any luck, if I could go to London, that would be great. But we'll talk about that here in a second. So rumours coming out from Esports, kind of reporting last night that there'll no longer be a Major 4 in the Call of Duty League at New York Subliners. Now, it doesn't really seem to be clear why this has been cancelled. The report talks about the fact that internal sources at New York are disappointed that it's been cancelled. So it's either a New York Subliners thing and they can't afford it, or whatever the reason might be, because like it's not exactly cheap to host an event in New York, I would imagine. But surely they knew, like, they'd done it before, so they would know what it's going to cost. Now, maybe this season with, you know, economic conditions and stuff, they thought, you know what, it's not worth it for us, which is understandable. Or maybe the CDL said, hey, like, you know, we don't want to host it there anymore, which I don't really understand why that would be the case, because it seems like teams are now going to be bidding to try and get this back. So I'm guessing it's probably a New York initiated thing that they don't want to host it anymore, or maybe not, right? You guys can have your speculation in the comment section below. We don't really know. Now, the Mutineers come out and actually like this tweet in the reply, and they are one of the key candidates to replace replace it, the article actually mentioned that Florida are strong contenders to host the major instead. So as Craig goes on to say, Sublands will no longer be hosting the major. It's been officially taken off the website. I think we saw even last year, or maybe it was this year, right? I think it was this year, Major 5 in Toronto. It was rumored it was going to be in Toronto. We didn't know for sure. It then officially was confirmed. But still, the New York Major 4, we're going to have to find a replacement for. So which city would you guys like to see it in? Obviously, I'm biased. I'd love to have it in London or, just somewhere in the UK. It's been a long time since that's been the case. Now, will London actually host it? Because at the end of the day, the team has to want to do it, and the ownership is changing there at London. I don't know if they'll want to commit to hosting an event that will cost a lot of money in London given those circumstances. Maybe they do, and their Twitter has actually implied that they do. So we'll see that in a second. I would say that Florida is more likely. I would also like to see Atlanta, to be honest, just because FaZe, they've been dominating the league for some time. Okay, not really dominating nowadays, but always top 3, right? They won the World Championship in 2021. They haven't hosted an event since a homestand back at the start of 2020, so I know many people would like to see that as well. Obviously, we've had majors in many different cities over the last couple of years. Seattle would be great to see as well. I don't know if we've had a major there really, even though I am biased towards the East Coast event, so I'm going to push for the Florida one or the London one ideally. Even Marky B says London or LA Major 4. Of course, he works for the LAG, so he's inclined to talk about the LA events, even though, we have quite a lot of events in LA, and Chaps is probably still going to be there this year. But yeah, I would love to see it in London personally, if that could even be possible. And then London tweeted this out with the eyes emoji, kind of implying that they know something that we don't. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? Obviously, I'm biased, so I don't really want to comment too much further. But yeah, I would love to see just another, look, New York I thought would have been great again. I thought that'd been fantastic. But it is nice to see other cities get a chance to host it, just because last season compared to this season, we've got barely any additional hosts. Okay, Boston are a new host, but Toronto this year also held one last year. Obviously, OpTic this year also held one last year. Same with New York, right? So, Boston, I think, were the only new host this season that actually got involved for Major 2 coming up in, I think it's right at the start of February the 2nd to the 5th or something, I think is when the event is going on, then 2023. So, that's pretty much it, right? It'd be nice to see another host of Florida Mutineers, or ideally a London Royal Ravens. But Florida also seem to be getting involved, and Daniel Side commented on this whole London thing this past weekend, right? Because he was asked when he was on the flank or on the watch party, asked okay, what's going on about London? What do you think about making this happen? And he basically said that he'd love to do it, probably for a major first rather than do champs there. Kind of coincidental timing, the fact that just after he made these comments 2 days later, subletters cancel their major, it seems, and therefore they're going to need to find a replacement. So Daniel Site and the CDL are obviously, they would love to have something in London, but it's whether London themselves actually want to do it. But just when London tweet this out, you think, well, maybe they are at least considering it. Now, as Jacob L goes on to say, with the changes over there, and also the general strategy that London have down there with the Mutineers and the Vegas Legion, really, they are some of the, weakest spenders, let's just say, in the league. They're not going to want to splash out crazy cash. But nowadays, they have an entirely new ownership group. So maybe they're thinking, Koi Esports or whatever they're coming in, maybe they're thinking, to kind of send a message to the COD scene, let's just host a big event, and we've got its opportunities opened up here at Major 4, so let's make it happen. Or or as Jacob L even says, if the CDL foots some of the bills, and maybe the CDL says, we'll pay a little bit of this event money, even though, whether they'll actually do that, I don't know. So Methods is super down for London as well. Many pro players have indicated their intentions over the last several years to go back to London at some point. I know that many pro players remember, especially CWL London 2019, as being certainly my favourite event in COD history that I was able to attend, but also many of the pros' favourite events, given the crowd that was there and the venue in the Cobble Box was absolutely superb, and they could run it back for sure. Many pros would love to have an event in London again, which is obviously for good reason, or potentially another venue which you guys can leave your thoughts on in the comment section below. So many pros in the past have said London. Even Methods yesterday says, please, let's go to London, but the Mutineers respond to London with also the eyes emoji. So I think these are probably the two contenders, if Ravens even are contenders, to host an event in London, or maybe it's going to be in Florida as well, which would be an interesting city to host it in, I thought. Also, it's Florida Mutineers. It's also kind of I never really thought about this, but Florida Mutineers, there's no city in it. It's not the Miami Mutineers or the Orlando Mutineers or whatever. It's just straight up Florida. So I guess they can host it wherever, which is a nice benefit of not having a specific city that's tied to you. Rather, they have a state instead. And this is just the other candidate I wanted to mention once again is FaZe, just because I think it would be a great place to hold an event in Atlanta. We know that FaZe are going through some dramas right now as an organization. There's all this talk about what's going on there from the stock going public stuff. And the thing is, Atlanta FaZe are a different entity. They're Atlanta Esports Ventures that have kind of partnered with FaZe to get their branding for the team. Bit of a strange one. So they could probably do it if they wanted to. But yeah, those are the candidates updates that I would put forth, but definitely tweet your thoughts on all this type of stuff in the comment section below. Let's dive into a couple of things just to close out here from Brian's stats as well. This is the current 1+ KD tournament streak. We saw what this was before Major 1. Plenty of these players have now added another notch onto the list here. So Dashy and Cell still hold the record at 13. The all-time record, as I mentioned the other day, is from Scump, which is about 47 events. There's some controversy on whether it's 47 or 45 or 44, whatever, but it's well into the mid-40s, and Scump set those records from like Advanced Warfare, Ghost, maybe all the way through to World War II. Crazy records. I doubt that'll ever be beaten. And think about it, with the amount of events we have nowadays, 6 or 7 per year, it would take, let's say, Cellium, it would take him, what, like 5, 6, 7 years to actually break Scump's record if he went positive every event? Like, that's crazy to think about. But Hydra, like, thinking about the SMGs here, Hydra's already on 11, Pred's already on 7. Like, Hydra on 11 in a row is really impressive, we've got to say, and he's done it again this event with hands down. Attached Octane, Sky, Sib, Havoc, and aBeZy. So aBeZy to 3 in a row, which is pretty impressive actually, just because I thought aBeZy was up and down this weekend, let's just say. And also, just to mention this, I know we saw this yesterday, but just in light of the kind of Vaznev GA drama we discussed a few minutes ago, look at this list here, because it's not like it's full of SMG players. I think some of the AR players that want to get the Vaznev bans would have you believe that they're all getting fried. But if you look at it, we've got Skies, Cell, I mean, you know, Scrappy, Sib, Priester, Insight, and Temp, they're all there. Okay, there's a fair few SMGs here, but it's quite a good balance, when usually it's going to be AR dominated, and certainly this would have been the case for the statistics coming out of the first weekends of the Major 1 qualifiers. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.